Welcome to Farm Charm Chic. I'm Emily. Today's episode is all about using vintage or antique finds in your home decor and how to stage them or different ways to DIY them. A few weeks back, I shared with you a video where I was at my local antique mall and I found some really fun treasures. One of them is, in my opinion, the best treasure I've ever found at an antique mall, and I'm so excited to share with you how I ended up styling that and using it. If you want a link to that video, I'll leave it in my description box. If you like any of today's projects, remember to hit that thumbs up, but let's go take these vintage finds and turn them into decorative masterpieces. This watering can was actually the first item I picked up at my recent trip to my local antique mall, and it was like $3.50, I think it said that it was, something like that. It was $3 or $4. I turned it upside down and there was a lot of fun little treasures inside, just some dirt and some leaves. I think it had been stored outside, so I took it and cleaned it up really well. I thought this was such a beautiful watering can. I'm not 100% sure that it's not like a new watering can, that it just kind of been left out over a season to age intentionally, or if it was actually an antique, but I felt okay about putting a fun little decal on it. Now, I'm using some IOD ones here. That one that is between my IOD booklet and my watering can is actually one from Essential Stencils. You can pick them up at Dollar Tree, Walmart, Amazon. You can find your rub-on transfers wherever you like to pick yours out and pick whatever design. It took me a few minutes to find one. I love this booklet from IOD because I love the vintage seed packets or the little seed advertisements, and that was kind of the vibe that I was going for, so I ended up finding one out of this booklet that I just trimmed out, and I'm going to use that. I thought those colors were so bright and I thought they would look so pretty on this. Now I had to decide which way I wanted to place my watering can, and I ultimately decided that I would place it with the spout going off to the left. And so I'm using this cute little rice bag that my daughter, she made these for Christmas gifts for us one year, and it's the perfect item to use when you have a round item you're trying to work with. This helps keep it stable. So if you have some rice bags or corn bags or something, pull them out and use them when you're doing this, because it really made a huge difference having this here. Now, to use the rub-on transfer, you're just going to peel your backing off and place your item down. And then you're going to use some sort of scraping tool. I started out, I couldn't find my actual ones that came with the decals because things have a way of disappearing in my craft studio, but I do have my Cricut scraper I started with. Ultimately, I just switch over to using one of the little popsicle stick craft sticks. So those will work fine if you have those. I buy them by the box full on Amazon, so I always have those on hand. So I do switch over to that here shortly. But you're just going to rub your design here, and you're just transferring it from that little piece of the transfer plastic there. And I'm lifting up a corner, and I'm going to see if I need to lay it back down, rub a little bit more. I'll do that. I love working with rub-on transfers, and I hope that we start to see more of them start to come available to us. Like, I know that when I started my channel, you could find a couple at Dollar Tree. Amazon didn't have a really big selection, but I mean, there's a lot of different companies coming out with the rub-on transfers. And I love them so much more than stickers, because you don't have the shininess that comes with the sticker or the little edge with the sticker. So I really hope we start to see more of these. Now I'm just putting some Mod Podge over the top of this to seal this in, so it's going to be nice and secure. If you want to make it vintage, you could even sand a little bit over it and bring some of that design back, kind of make it look a little bit more faded. That's something you can do as well. I chose not to do that on this one, so I'm just keeping it completely intact. But I just think that those colors, those pinks and reds, look so cute on this little watering can. I just stuck a little bit of florals or greenery coming out of the top there. I just thought this was so beautiful and so fun. If you find a little watering can, pick it up and make something similar to this. You can always find a place to tuck this into your decor. While shopping at my local antique market recently, I found this little votive holder and I thought it was so beautiful. The rustic finish on it was perfect. I'm not going to really need to do anything to it other than I want to add a top to make this a riser. Now, I was trying to decide which place I wanted to have as the top and the bottom, and I ultimately decided to place the opening on the bottom, so that way if I wanted to place a tea light or some fairy lights in there, it would shine through all of those delicate cutouts. I thought that would be beautiful. So now I have these two wooden rounds that I'm trying to decide which size I would like to do for my riser. I ultimately decide to go with the bigger one. Now these risers I get at Hobby Lobby. You can get them when the wood is on sale for 40, 30, 40, or 50% off depending on what the sale is. And they have a beveled edge. And when I do risers, love to put the beveled edge down so that we have more surface area you're working with. Now I love to beat the heck out of these. I'm taking some pliers, I'm putting some little pock marks in here. I'm going around the edge with my pliers to kind of give some distress marks. If you don't like this and this is not your thing, you'll clearly skip this step. Now I'll even take my pliers and I'll even drag it through the wood to make some marks in there. We're going to stain this, and that's just going to make this look more aged. It's going to kind of match the two pieces together, because where the votive holder really has a rustic finish to it, I want my wood to look the same way. So I'm even softening the edge of the pine with my pliers and with my fingernail file here to give a really soft look. I really want this piece of wood to look like it was sitting in the back barn for years and years and years, and then you found it and decided to do something with it. So here I'm kind of doing the same finish on that beveled edge, so if you see it from the side, it will look distressed as well. Now I'm taking some antiquing wax. You can use some stain, you can use some watered down brown paint, whatever you would like to do, any color as well. I love to kind of keep the natural tones when I'm doing my risers, when I'm mixing the wood and the metal here. I just love the look of this stain. Now this looks really dark because it is going on fairly heavy, but we'll wipe it back in just a second. I'm using a brush so I can make sure I get into all of those little distressing marks that I created, and that will hold that antiquing wax in a darker shade. So when you wipe it back, you're really going to notice a difference here, and I'll show you exactly what that looks like here. You can use a paper towel or a wet wipe to do this part, just something, even a rag, just something to pull back the majority of that stain. So you can see all of those distressing marks that we created, how it makes them look like they were aged. It was just sitting there for years, picking up all of that distressing look, that grime, everything. We just want this to look rusty, crusty, and like it's just antique and vintage. Around the beveled edge, it is a little bit of a different finish on the wood there, and so I'm having to go in with my fingernail file just to brighten that up a bit because the stain was really dark there. I didn't love the way that looked, but this again just adds to that distressed look. So to glue this on here, I'm just using some Gorilla super glue. Any kind of super glue will work. I found that the hot glue with the metal and the wood, you'll get a little bit of a hold. So if it's something that you're needing as a temporary hold for a short period of time, like a few weeks or something, you can do that. But I love to use the super glue for a more permanent hold. E6000 would also work if you would like to. I just like the super glue for this. Now this is how cute this ended up looking. I love this. I think with a little tea light underneath there, it would be beautiful. I think that the size of the wood round, the little bit bigger size, I love it with that votive. So I can stack a couple more things on there. I think this is just going to be so beautiful and elegant for the little bit of a rustic modern farmhouse touch. What do you guys think of this? This is one of those pieces that I found at the antique mall, and I love when I find old kitchen pieces because you can find some really beautifully aged items, and it's so fun to come and put them in your decor and to kind of think of different ways to use them. I loved this little strainer spoon. It actually was in fairly decent condition. You just want to make sure that there's not like anything that you're going to cut yourself on. Like I was checking all of the little strainer spots there to make sure there was no sharp edges or something that somebody would cut themselves on, because that would not be fun. So I thought this would be a perfect item to place a little bird's nest into. And so I'm just taking some cocoa liner. This is just from those things that you put in the liner of your pots in the spring and summertime. You can buy these at Dollar Tree. You can pick them up really anywhere that you're going to have like a greenhouse or garden section. You might already have some laying around your home. You could also use some Spanish moss if you would like to, but that is very messy. Now I found this little tree of eggs here at a thrift store, and it was missing the top of it, like the top had broken off. And ordinarily, I think that most people probably pass that up, thinking like, oh, what am I going to do with that? It's missing part of it. So always look at pieces and think, how could I deconstruct this or use this? Because I will use those eggs for a very long time and in a lot of projects. And I only paid a couple of dollars for it. way cheaper than if you were to have to go buy a bag of those eggs individually. Now I'm just picking a couple of different colors out to place in there, and I'll just use a little dot of hot glue that will hold those eggs securely, so that way if anybody was to bump into this or it was to get knocked or anything, they're not going to come falling out. Now you can see how I'm holding the spoon up like this. I thought that if this was hanging, that's how a bird would naturally lay its nest rather than right down in the center of the spoon, so kind of off kilter like that. So just think of that when you're going to be displaying things, of how you're going to be displaying it or how it would have naturally been displayed, because that's how the bird would have laid its nest or laid its eggs, built its nest and laid its eggs. That's, yeah. So I'm just going to put a little dot of hot glue here on the base of the nest. That's just going to hold that in place. So again, the nest isn't going to fall out anywhere. I'm just going to go in with some scissors, give this nest a little haircut. Sometimes your little pieces of cocoa liner can get a little wiry, so don't be afraid to go in with some scissors and clean it up to be nice and tidy. The next thing I'm going to do is just feed some twine through the top little hole on my spoon and tie this off in a knot. I like to go back in and cut the excess off and then kind of play around with where you cut it with your thumbnail to kind of make it look like that knot's been there a really long time. I have one other nest that I want to make. Let's go do that. A lot of times at antique stores or flea markets, I'll find like big bins of kitchen stuff with a bunch of metal, different kitchen pieces. And I found this little cup here. I think it's a Jello mold. You're going to have to help me out and maybe let me know down in the comments exactly what this is. But I'm just taking a candlestick, just one of the ones you buy in the unfinished wood section at your craft store, and I just stained it with some antiquing wax. And I'm going to use some super glue. I love the Gorilla super glue. I love the immediate hold that you're going to get with it, and I feel like the hold works the best between the wood and the metal. So that's why I like to use that one. So I'm just making a little stand out of this. I thought it would be so cute to make a little nest to put in here. There's a lot of different fun things you could do, but I just love putting the metal and the wood together. I love the color combination between the two. And I just think it's so fun to have either for a tiered tray or in a cute little vignette. I just love how these look. Now I'm taking some cocoa liner to make my nest. This is just that cocoa liner you get for your plants that you use in your pots in the spring and summertime. You might have some of this around your house, but you can buy one at Dollar Tree. And if you use one specifically to make little nests with, it's going to last you a very long time. So I just kind of mold that cocoa liner into a little nest here. You could use Spanish moss, but I'm just letting you know now that cocoa liner is much less of a mess than Spanish moss is. So I like it for that reason. Plus I love the color of it. It's a little bit of a brighter color than the Spanish moss. So I just fit that into my little cup there, and then I have some little colored eggs left over from Easter time that I thought would be so cute to just place in there. I just thought that all of this was just a cute little piece, almost like this had been left out somewhere where Grandpa's shed or in the back of the barn or somewhere, that a little bird had decided to make it its home and have a little nest there. I just thought these pieces were beautiful and make such a fun little set that you could place into your decor, hang somewhere, set in somewhere. I just think these turned out so beautiful. What do you think? I've seen a lot of displays using these little spiky flower frogs, and I've started to see them at the antique stores and at vintage market days. So I've picked a couple up because I really do like using them in displays. So there's all sorts of different shapes, sizes. They are also fun and beautiful to use. Now I'm going to do something with both of these here. I picked up this little Tim Holtz pack of like ephemera or some vintage flower stuff. I was really anxious to see kind of all of the different things that were in this pack. Now I just picked this up at my craft store. So wherever the Tim Holtz items are sold, you could find this. I'll leave a link somewhere in the video here for you to be able to click on and see if you can order them online. Now look at all of these different beautiful pieces here. I mean, there are like little seed packet, little stamps, little signs, just a bunch of little things from times past. And I just love things like this. Now you could also use your own photographs. You could also print out on cardstock items that you want to use yourself. You might already have some files that you want to use. Fussy cut them to put them in these little spiky things, but I'm going to layer a couple of different designs in each of these flower frogs. So I'll pick out like 3 items each to put with them. So you can do as little or as many as you want, but they're just so fun to have in your little displays. And for my little seed box that I'm decorating, I think these will be perfect. I found some cute little flowers here to go with it. So I'm just looking at pieces that'll complement each other, different colors and ways that I can fit them in here. But look at how cute that is with all those different things. So this little bigger one that I have, it has some bent little spikies. I don't know if there's a technical term other than spikies, but they have some little spikes that are bent. So it's a little harder to get things to fit into this one. But I found these 3 things that I thought looked so cute together. So you can just see how tucked into a display on a tiered tray, on a shelf, even for like a party or something, you want to have some fun little different photographs from years past displayed this way, that this is a very fun way to do that. But even just printing your own items out or having a little pack of some items like this, what an easy, affordable way to have these displayed. And I just think they turned out so cute. Have you guys used these in your decor? I'm anxious to know. This was one of the biggest treasures I've ever found personally at an antique mall. It is a 1920s like general store seed box. And the antique worker that was there told me that in her 40 years working at this antique mall, she's only seen 2 of these come through the store. They're very rare, at least in our area, to find. But look at how beautiful this is. There were so many different things that I thought I could do with this, and I was so excited. Now, looking at it a little bit closer, I can see that it's kind of had a makeover. You can kind of see some different years of work put into it. You can kind of see there's a little bit of fabric right along here, but you can see that there was maybe a different tone of paint, like it might have been a different color of paint, and you can kind of see that on the back here too. And it's got like the little hooks that were added here to close the box. They're not even like spaced, like really, like this one's right on the edge, the other one's not. You can just see years of different history coming through in this box, and I absolutely loved it. I mean, it was very much an investment piece, but I couldn't pass this up. And you can kind of see the different colors of green down here of where it was probably painted before. You can see where on the edge here that they've added some new hardware at some point where the original hardware is still there painted over. I mean, just the fact that you can look at this piece and see the history that it had been through was just amazing. I mean, it is just a beautiful piece, and I am so honored to be able to be the guardian of this piece for the next little bit of life here. And I ultimately decided that I wanted to hang something over here from the door, kind of stand this up on its side, because there was already, you can see my little spoon I'm going to hang there. It had that little screw right there where it would latch, and I thought that was perfect. So now the fun part is just finding some pieces that are little enough to fill in the little squares in here. Some pieces I had that you'll recognize from other videos I've done, and then other pieces, like I just had a little store purchased egg there, or nest that I put in there. But there's a couple pieces I need to make to put in here. So now these are just some little frames that came from Hobby Lobby in their scrapbook area. So they're more for scrapbooking, but they are kind of like a resin frame with a gold finish. And I'm going to just put some antiquing wax to age these up a little bit, tone that goldness, that brassiness. I guess it's not really brassy, but they were just a little too shiny to go into this little box here. They needed to be aged a little bit. And I'm just going to place them in there just as a little bit of filler. I looked through the dollhouse section for some different furniture. I couldn't find anything there that I loved. I looked through the fairy garden section. I still couldn't find anything that I love to put in here. So it's one of these pieces that I think that I'm going to build on as different seasons go by. And if I find things little enough that I will fit into these little squares, I'll pick them up, because I had so much fun decorating this. Now I'm just gluing a little square onto the back of one of these little frames. I even put a little bit of moss on the top of the little wooden square so you can't see it, to just kind of put in there. I thought, since it's a seed box, the little mossiness growing on things would be really cute. This bag I've held on to for a couple of years. I got this bag when I went to the Magnolia Farms in Waco, Texas. I didn't get it from Magnolia Farms. There was another little shop there. I wish I could remember the name, but it was very like walking distance from Magnolia Farms, and it was just a little kind of antique / boutique / furniture store. Anyway, I thought this bag was darling and thought, oh, I can use this in some Mod Podge items or whatever. So I thought this was the perfect project to cut one of these little squares out on here and just put to another little, like glue it to another little wood square I have to use as kind of a little advertisement. I just thought this was so cute. Do you guys ever keep like your packaging or bags or things like that? If you were to get a bag like that, would you just throw it away? Or are you like me and you think, oh, I can use this, and you save it? I have a lot of boxes of things like this. I think I drive my husband nuts, but that's just how it goes, right? So I'm painting my little square here with some white so that will pop on here. And then I'll just use some Elmer's glue to glue that down. And then I even go over the edge with a little bit of antiquing wax just to make it look a little aged. I would love to know if you had a box like this, what you would decorate it with. Would you change it up for different seasons? I definitely am going to do that. I think this is going to be a staple piece in my home decor. Some of those boxes were sections were a little smaller than you would actually think they were. So I had a little bit of a challenge finding pieces to fit into them. But once I did, you can see on that top right-hand corner, those are some vintage chess pieces I found recently at Vintage Market Days. I thought they were darling to go in there. I have our brand, that MD is our brand that we use for our farm. And so that was fun to be able to cut that out and have that in there, personalize it a little bit. I just think all of these pieces just ended up so beautiful. I love that little green frog, that flower frog I put in there. So fun. I'm going to have the best time coming up with different ways to decorate this. If you would like me to show this to you for different seasons, let me know down in the comments, because it's definitely something I'll come and show you for a fall or Christmas or maybe in patriotic. I don't know. I've got so many different ideas of how to use this, and it's definitely a piece that I want to treasure and have it be kind of a showpiece in my home. I would love to know your thoughts on how this turned out. I hope that this has inspired you to go take a look at your local antique malls, or if you have a flea market that is close to you, or a vintage market days, or somewhere that sells some beautiful antiques, to go have a look at the pieces that they have that you can definitely get some show-stopping pieces, some definite treasures. This seed box, I was so giddy when I found it. I could not wait to share with you guys. I showed you the video when I purchased it, and I've been so excited to show you how I styled it. But this is one of those items that if my mom had still been around, I would have been on the phone the second that I left the building on the way to my car to call her and tell her about this treasure that I just found. It is so fun to go on essentially a treasure hunt. You don't know what the treasure is going to be, but you can find some beautiful pieces, and when you get them home and style them, it just is so much fun, and it adds such a unique element to your decor, and you can make it truly yours and your own style. I would love to know what you guys thought of today's projects. If you like what I did with these, again, let me know on this seed box if you would like to see how I style it for different seasons or different holidays, because I definitely feel that this piece is going to be in my decor for a very long time. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed these projects. I'll see you next time. Happy crafting! If you liked the video that you just saw and you want to keep crafting together, here's another video that you might enjoy. And as always, remember to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.